At openminds.tv, you're going to find a lot of UFO news, mostly written by a young man by the name of Jason McClellan. He's a stellar young feller, and he is actually here to share some news of the week with us. Jason, hello, are you there?
Greetings, Alejandro. I am here.
Oh, Jason, can I put you on? I'm sorry, I put you on hold for just a sec. I haven't even told him who our guest is going to be tonight. After Jason's done talking about the news, we're going to have Tracy Austin, and she's awesome. Austin is awesome. She's a UFO and paranormal researcher. She's hosted a TV show. She's an author. She's had her own incredible experiences, and it's going to be a lot of fun. She's a very cool lady, and she's going to be speaking at the Women in UFO Symposium coming up in May in Texas that Jason and I talked about last week. And sorry to interrupt you. Jason, go.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm positive this time.
Excellent. Well, greetings, Alejandro, and hello, everyone. This is your Open Minds News Brief for Monday, December 19th, 2011. Well, the mysterious UFO known as the Dudley Dorito returned to the UK skies. According to the Express and Star, Gary Knock and his family witnessed the object fly directly over their heads near England's village of Hagley. The witness described the object as a, quote, black triangle with white lights at each end, end quote. The UFO reportedly flew at a low altitude and moved silently through the air. Knock believes the UFO could be an experimental military craft, and sightings of Dorito-shaped or corn chip-shaped UFOs have been occurring in the UK for years.
Is that my cue to say something?
You don't have to, but...
No, what I was going to say, what's funny is that it's only lately they've kind of put this Dorito label on because we've all known them as triangular craft, and they've been seen for decades, and they're triangular, and all of a sudden this Dorito thing stuck, which I'm sure Lay's potato chips, I think who owns Doritos, probably loves that because they're getting some free publicity. But now, instead of thinking of mysterious triangular aircraft, and it's probably has to do with marketing, I get this cheesy taste in my mouth.
I do too.
Yeah.
Well, and it's also fun to say Dudley Dorito. You know, Dudley is the area where these things have been frequently seen.
Right.
It's that nice D alliteration, Dudley
But interesting.
Dorito.
Yeah, I mean, all these sightings that they've had out there, and of course, these triangular craft are just extraordinary things.
And they get some interesting video, you know. I don't know if the video is genuine or not, but we see some pretty clear video of this triangle moving around, and they see it a lot. So, interesting video on that. The Dudley Dorito has returned. And as you mentioned, it was pretty more common earlier this year, and certainly at the end of last year. There was a lot of sightings, and we've been a little silent on the Dudley Dorito, but that returned last week.
Mm-hmm.
In other news, last week we talked about a story that involved a UFO that was seen hovering above a large crowd of 25,000 protesters in Moscow, Russia. The appearance and behavior of the craft suggested that it could simply be a military police surveillance drone. And according to Vitaly Matveev of Russia Today, a drone is exactly what it was. Matveev is his name. And he was in the mob of protesters, actually, and he saw the drone for himself. He explains, quote, well, being among those tens of thousands of confused onlookers, the only kind of debate I can recall in regards to the object was whether it was the police monitoring the security situation on the scene of a mass protest through a drone camera, or journalists taking aerial photographs for their reports. According to Matveev, the camera drone belongs to the Reuters news agency, an independent community of civilian journalists. The aerial shots taken by the drone can be viewed on Reuters' website. And interesting thing about that story, Alejandro, was when that came out that this drone belonged to Reuters, that it was just a drone with a camera. Well, before that came out, just when the UFO over Moscow stories started coming out that were covered by everyone, there were a couple of sources using some of the photos taken by the drone. And I don't know where they got those photos, but in their story talking about this mysterious UFO, they had pictures that were aerial shots of the mob.
That's so funny because, I used those pictures when I reposted the story,
Mhm.
and they were right there from Russia Today, and that's all they said they were from. A lot of people used these, and I think the Daily Mail, I can't remember.
I think you're right. Yep.
And what's so funny is even when I was posting the picture, I wonder if I thought this is probably a drone. But at the time I was thinking, so far I've never heard of media having drones. So I was thinking it was probably a police drone. But I was thinking this picture would have had to have come from very near wherever this thing was in the air. And wouldn't it be interesting if the picture was taken from whatever these people saw flying above them? Because the picture's coming straight down, and it's so funny that that they show the video of this thing and then used pictures from it.
And the fact that this reporter from Russia Today was in that mob of people and saw it for himself makes it pretty interesting. And, the initial reports really hyped it up, saying how people were freaked out. They had no idea what it was. They were scrambling to climb trees to get a better look. And this guy said, no.
That's not true.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. So that's interesting. They overhyped it because it did look like a drone, but you had all the people freaking out.
And it was a cool drone. I mean, it's
very
it's
cool.
not one of the drones that we've seen before because, again, most of the drones we see are military or police. And this was just a smaller scale sort of object with, I think, 6 rotors on it. And suspended beneath it was just a DSLR camera.
Yeah.
So it got some pretty cool aerial shots.
Yeah, very cool drone, and very similar to the drone pictures that you and I independently found and put on the web.
Correct.
Very similar, except for with a camera hanging from it. And I was surprised when you see the pictures of the real thing, too, or the thing up close, how small it is. It looked a lot bigger in the video than it was in real life, and I think that's an interesting illusion to keep in mind when looking at, possible UFO pictures.
Yeah, and some of the video that came out with that story was very blurry, and you couldn't make that the definition of the drone itself. So, but interesting. In other news, on December 10th, a man in Claremont, Ontario, in Canada, saw a strange glowing UFO in the sky. According to James Fikes, the witness, at approximately 7 p.m., he felt an unexplainable urge to go outside with his camera. He looked up at the full moon and noticed a large sphere-shaped object in the sky with the moon that was emitting a pale glow. Fikes described, quote, "I have no idea how big it was because I have no way of knowing how far away it was, but it seemed to be almost rotating around the moon." Fikes took a few pictures of the mysterious object, adjusting exposure and shutter speeds with each shot in an attempt to capture the best possible image of the UFO. One of the photos supports his description that the UFO was moving. Using a slow shutter speed, Fikes snapped a photo that shows the strange object blurred. That indicates motion, and this kind of blur is common in night photography, especially when the camera is handheld, because the slightest movement causes the camera, or the slightest movement of the camera causes any light to blur in the photo. And however, this is not the case in this particular photo because the UFO itself appears blurred, but the moon does not. This indicates that the object was moving while the camera was stationary. It's common for mysterious objects to appear in photos taken in low light environments, and the cause is usually light reflections or lens flare. But Fikes knows that that is not the case with his photos. He used a lens that reduces vibrations, and as I just explained, only the object is blurred, not the moon. And his strongest argument against lens flare reflection is the simple fact that he observed the object with his naked eyes in the sky above him. And in these cases, Alejandro, we more times than not, we hear about these things, these people who have these photos with crazy, strange things in them, and they didn't notice those things when they were taking the picture.
Right.
And that's a good, strong indicator of lens flare, something happening with the camera and the light. But in this case, he claims to have seen the object.
Right. And did he send this to you?
Yes, he sent it to Open Minds.
Yeah, that's so interesting because like you said, the second picture, there is a blur that looks like a movement. The first picture really looks like the moon. I mean, it even looks like you can see some of the craters on the moon and stuff in
Yeah,
this
it's
second
blue,
thing.
but you're right. It does look like sort of the surface of the moon kind of reflected onto this
Yeah.
blue.
So, but if you're to take this guy's testimony as real, of course, it would be even stronger with other witnesses.
Right.
Then it's not the moon, because he's right. He saw it with his eyes, which, of course, you're not going to see a lens flare flying around the moon with your
Right.
eyes, unless he was like spinning around on some sort of carnival ride. But so that is really interesting. I mean, if he's being honest, he's got something weird here.
Right. Yep. The photos with his testimony do make them very interesting.
Yeah.
All right. In other news, people in Kansas were shocked last week when they saw what looked like a flying saucer being transported on the back of a military truck. The craft was wrapped in plastic and was reportedly 32 feet wide, taking up all 4 lanes of traffic. It turns out that the craft was actually that unmanned military craft we've talked about before on the show, known as the X-47B. The military was transporting the craft from California to Maryland. And we've mentioned before, Alejandro, how sort of saucer-like this craft does look from certain angles in the sky, but it particularly looks like a flying saucer or a saucer when it's wrapped up in this plastic on the back of a truck.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because it's supposed to be, and it was being taken from one facility to another, an aerospace facility to another. It's funny that they would do that, in the middle of the day and stuff, and obviously it caused a bit of a fervor, but it's fun pictures to see this thing. I mean, it's an incredible looking thing. I guess they figure, since Iran has one and they're putting pictures up all over the place, it's okay to just drive them around.
Yeah, this thing is weird, though. It's definitely saucer-like, and they're supposedly putting in these on aircrafts, and they're going to be unmanned weapons.
Yeah, very interesting craft.
Yep. All right, well, in Hollywood news, Hollywood remains flooded with extraterrestrial-themed movies. Darkest Hour, an upcoming alien invasion flick, is currently being heavily promoted on U.S. television, and there's a considerable buzz regarding the third installment of the popular Men in Black movies that will be released in May 2012. But Ridley Scott's upcoming movie, Prometheus, is perhaps the most anticipated of the extraterrestrial-related films being released in the near future. Most of the film's details have been kept under tight wraps. The film was originally planned as a prequel to the Alien movie franchise, but the screenplay was reworked into an entirely different movie, but will still somehow be related to Alien, even if only slightly. Last month, Scott revealed that Prometheus is partly inspired by the writings of Swiss author Erich von Däniken, but key information about the movie has been hard to come by. The website IO9 provides the briefest of plot outlines, stating, a team of explorers discover a clue to the origins of mankind on Earth, leading them to a journey to the darkest corners of the universe. There, they must fight a terrifying battle to save the future of the human race. And today, the first footage from the upcoming film was released. The small clip serves as a teaser trailer for the official movie trailer releasing on December 22nd. And yes, you heard me correctly. That is an advertisement for an advertisement. As if the buzz that has already been created about this movie wasn't an indication enough, this push to market the upcoming release of a movie trailer could be a sign of the substantial marketing push coming in the near future to promote this movie. And Prometheus is scheduled to be released in June 2012.
I mean, it better be good with all this hype. I mean, the pictures are so awesome that the pictures alone are just so cool that I think that's what gets people excited. But obviously, we're excited because this is like probably at least the third, maybe fourth month in a row that we've talked about, or a week in a row we've talked about the show. But
yep, they've been secretive, but yet they're leaking out information intentionally, and now they're advertising an advertisement. Yeah, I think it's going to get crazy.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. I did an update on my story at UFODailyNews.com from an interview he did with Filmophilia. And he, again, I mean, he really, and they even put in quotes, editor's note, here's where he really takes off. And he really gets into the Van Daniken thing and just about how probable. He talks about NASA and the church saying it's okay to believe in ETs. And, he's asking who assisted us, who made the decisions to make us a bigger civilization. and all of this stuff. So he's really into this whole ancient astronauts thing, and which is great. He's not letting go, and it's smart marketing wise because I think people like that aspect added to it. But it also seems to be a passion of his.
Yeah, it seems like it. Well, Alejandro, one more thing before I go. You did a story on Huffington Post about some video footage that you were sent a while ago about a UFO in Las Vegas. Would you mind giving me a summary of that?
Yeah, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about it too, because I know you've seen the video. We talked about it probably a couple years ago.
Yeah.
We put it up and talked about it, and I just decided to put it up on a YouTube and kind of in full glory and big and everything for people to look at, because we've never had, and I've shown it to a lot of people, and I've never had anybody say, oh, I know what that is, and tell me what it is. And as listeners can tell on the show, me and Jason are always looking for prosaic answers to these UFO videos, because more often than not, just as always been in this field, they are, the Russian things turned out to be a drone, just like we thought. But what's great is sometimes these things are totally unexplainable. And I have not had anybody really get to explain what this is. One guy said maybe a blimp, but a blimp, this thing kind of does this looping action where it flies down, goes back up, and flies around. That kind of shows it's not a blimp. Someone else said maybe remote control. But this thing is up in the air for a long time, I think like 20 minutes. Remote control, well, this is 2008 when it was taken. Remote control planes, at least the toy ones, only last a few minutes. So it's still an unknown. I don't know what this thing is, and I'm hoping you listeners, please go look at this video. Go to the Huffington Post, the UFO over Las Vegas, or if you're on my Twitter for UFO Daily News or Paranormal Reporter, you'll see it. But
we'll also have it in the headlines on openminds.tv tomorrow, most likely.
Cool. Yeah, I'm going to put it at UFO Daily News probably tonight also. But yeah, I want to know what this thing is. And if nobody can tell me what it is, I'm excited because it means it might be a real unknown,
That's still an exciting video to me because it still has me stumped, and I admit that before I watched that video, when you told me about it, I already had, a few ideas in my mind what it could be, especially because the roller coaster's right there and you have this light that's looping around and the roller coaster's looping around and you think, oh, okay, those are going to be connected. But this thing is completely independent. It's away from the roller coaster. It does its own thing.
Yeah. So I'm just asking people, please go take a look and let me know if you know what it is.
Yeah, for sure. I love that video. And thank you for bringing it up again, Alejandro. I enjoy watching that one.
Great.
All right, well, that is it for the news. Remember to check out all these stories and so many more at openminds.tv, your source for UFO-related news. I'm Jason McClellan, your Open Minds news correspondent, and you've been briefed. Back to you, Alejandro.